Well, from Eisenhower to TikTok, how long is too long when it comes to being in Congress? Look, I go back and forth on this. Term limits, sometimes I think it's a good idea. Other times I think, well, what if you've got a great person in a particular position and you don't want to lose them? They've got experience, they've gotten things done for you, and they're term limited out. They're automatically disqualified from running again. I don't like that idea. But then again, I don't like the fact that in Texas last year, a member of Congress, they couldn't figure out where she was. Republican, by the way. Couldn't figure out where she was. Then they found her in the dementia center in Houston. Had been missing for 6 months. Her staff should be criminally prosecuted for that, by the way, for hiding that fact. They weren't. Nobody's held accountable. Joe Teirab is here, Minnesota State co-chair for the U.S. Term Limits, former candidate for Congress. Joe, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me on, Steve. Appreciate it.
All right. So who was there from Eisenhower to TikTok? Who is holding court on Capitol Hill for that long?
I mean, no one should be. And we know Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden, they, were in Congress, Joe Biden, for 35 years before he became vice president. Nancy Pelosi, I was born in 1987. Nancy Pelosi's been in Congress since then. I think that is way too long. And I hear your point about, hey, look, if someone gets in there and they have experience, but look, what is the cost of that? And the cost is the system is broken, and we need to fix it.
I don't know what the cost is. If I lose good representation, what is the cost to me as a voter in this republic? And I want a certain person to represent me, but people want to change the rules and say, well, you can't be represented by who you want. Look, term limits can be exacted by elections. That's what I've used to think. But part of the problem is you've got massive amounts of money. The re-election rate for U.S. senators is better than 90%. You've got House races that'll cost $100 million this year, next year, I suppose. But there are problems on both sides. But the fact of the matter is, people get a chance to vote. At least that's the way it's supposed to work. What's wrong with that for term limits?
Well, you can make the same argument about president. And look, what we did in the 22nd Amendment is we said, as good as a president may or may not be. I mean, I would love it if Ronald Reagan could have been president for a little bit longer, or other great presidents. But we said 22nd Amendment, that's term limited. And so,
that doesn't mean I agree with it. I mean, Teddy Roosevelt would have been elected president most likely in 1920, except he did this strange thing called dying in 1919. And Teddy Roosevelt probably would have been reelected. And then you never would have had Harding being an embarrassment with the Teapot Dome and all of those scandals, right? So I don't know. I think that elections really are term limiting. But then again, I see these people that are entrenched in there that have piles of money that can't be touched because they've got all this money. What we should do, I think, Joe, is limit how much money can be involved in an election period. If you're running for Congress, the most money you can spend is $1 million, period. Doesn't matter where it comes from. If you're running for the United States Senate, it's $5 million. That's it. Doesn't matter where it comes from. Stop the money. If you're running for president, you get $25 million. Doesn't matter where it comes from. That's all you get, period. If you were able to do that, I think that you could really help people that weren't in office have a chance to get into office. Because if you're a little guy like me and I want to run for office, I don't have $25 million sitting there ready to go. Maybe I'm the best candidate. Maybe I am. Maybe I should run for Michigan's 1st congressional district. It's crossed my mind. But how do I get there? Go on. I'm not trying to cut you off.
I know this deeply because I ran for Congress last cycle and I got outspent 3-1. And I know how much money is at the heart of politics. And sadly, that's just the case. So when you say that, hey, look, we have elections and those are natural term limits. Well, unfortunately, they're not. I mean, the incumbency rate is extremely high. So maybe if that was the case, we wouldn't need term limits, but we need term limits. I mean, and so I think we have a simple way. It's a hard way to get there in terms of Article 5 of the Constitution. The Founding Fathers gave us the way to get there, and that's changing the Constitution. And I think that's a little bit easier, honestly, than somehow limiting money, because when you get into money, you say, well, how much can be spent on an ad or on a newspaper or what have you, and then that gets into the First Amendment issues. So I think we should change the Constitution, term limit senators to 2 terms, House members to 3 terms. Let's get in line with what many state legislatures and governors have across the country and term limit our politicians, because the system is broken.
You'll have a very difficult time. It takes 38 states to ratify an amendment to the United States Constitution. 38. We can't get we can't get 38 people to agree on anything, let alone 38 states. I mean, you're optimistic.
Well,
I give you that.
80% of Americans believe in this. And look, at some point,
80% of Americans
US
don't think
senators
men
weren't
should.
directly.
80% of Americans don't believe that men should be in girls' sports, and yet here we are, or that the southern border should have ever been open, but yet here we are. You know, these 80-20 issues, I agree with you on that.
I think there's going to be change. I mean, there's going to be change on that issue. There was change in the border, thankfully, in the 2024 election here.
Sure.
But there's going to be change. I mean, there was change with direct election of senators. There was change.
What a terrible. And thank you for bringing that up. The 17th Amendment, the worst thing that ever happened in America. The worst thing that ever happened. The 17th Amendment.
That's a little bit of an exaggeration.
Terrible, horrible thing that happened. Because if that hadn't happened right now, there'd be 58 Republican senators in Washington. 58, maybe 60. Thank you for pointing that out. The 17th is the worst damn thing that ever happened to this country. Sorry, but you hit a nerve there, Joe.
I'll say I'm happy that I get to vote directly for my U.S. senator, but I understand better.
No, you do vote. We were not smarter than the founding fathers, and direct election of senators is wrong. We elect state representatives and senators to select our senators. That's the way it's supposed to be. There's a reason for that. It insulated the states against what we have now, which is an overrepresentation of Democrats in the United States Senate and the House, by the way. This country votes overwhelmingly red, and yet we've got almost an even match in the House. But I'll give you the last word.
I mean, sorry, the last word is this. I mean, I agree with you that we're not smarter than the founding fathers. The founding fathers gave us the fifth Article 5 of the Constitution that says this is how we can change things, because things do change. And so we now realize that money, unfortunately, as you and I will both agree, is way too important in politics. Let's figure this out. Let's make sure that people aren't in Congress for their whole lives and not understanding what the heck TikTok even is. And let's term limit.
I'll consider that, but we really should be considering repealing the 17th. See, we came to an accommodation here. Joe, thank you for being here. I got to run. Greatly appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.